Are you passionate? Passion, passio in Greek. Jesus was passionate about life. He had empathy, same root. He was compassionate, same root. He loved life, not death, not suffering, not masochism. He did not want to suffer, nor did God want him dead. Jesus was the victim of the human war on empathy, which is really a war on compassion. Some today speak Judas-like of the sin of empathy or toxic empathy. The richest man on earth calls empathy, quote, the fundamental weakness of Western civilization, unquote. The result, the gutting of the U.S. aid agency, which could mean the death of 3.3 million people a year. Ruthless deportation of immigrants, the rolling back of civil rights, and the assault on transgender people, and more and more. Empathy is the ability to put yourself into another's shoes. As such, it is actually neutral. It can be used for good, for compassion, or it can be used for evil, for torture, for exploiting the vulnerability of the other. Compassion requires empathy. Without empathy, compassion becomes colonization. The imposition of what I think is good for you, even if it harms or kills you. The fear of empathy is driven by a fear of vulnerability. Empathy requires us to use our own experience of need or suffering to understand another's experience. Empathy reminds us of our own vulnerability, which is the very thing that makes us human. Empathy pokes a hole in the balloon of narcissistic omnipotence. It reminds us existentially of our own need, our own nothingness, our nakedness, of our own finite nature. To get rid of the fear of vulnerability, we can cut ourselves off from our feelings, both in ourselves and toward others. But here is the bad news, or the good news. Well, this is actually bad. The fear does not go away. It becomes frozen in obsessive, legalistic, narcissistic, or moralistic power trips to control ourselves and those who remind us of our vulnerability. Jesus got killed, not because God wanted so, but because through empathy, he melted away the ice of frozen fear in religion and politics. That is very dangerous. And he did so by affirming people unconditionally in the name of an absolutely loving God who never does retribution. People felt touched by him. If you look in the Gospel of Luke, look for the word touch. And he felt deeply touched by them. He was present in a way to people that the waters of vitality began again to flow in their souls and their bodies. As a result, they could see again with their own eyes, stand again on their own feet, be again comfortable in their own skin, hear again with their own ears, and feel no longer dead but alive. We here at CTS train students exactly for that kind of compassionate work. Yet, when frozen fear melts, all of the deadening and destructive feelings of pain, regret, and aggression that were stuffed down and were only visible in the form of symptoms and oppressive structures, they will surface in full force in relation to the one who brings the warmth of love and care. The Gospels describe this, for instance, with a metaphor of the demon-possessed person railing aggressively against Jesus. "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God?" And then, "I adjure you by God, do not torment me." Do you hear the ambivalence in that violent God image? That is a frozen, violent God image that Jesus poked a hole in, that he melted away. And we have resurrected that in Christianity, left and right, to oppress people in the name of the same God that Jesus came and was killed for by us. Now, counselors experience this very same dynamic when clients begin to change. When clients begin to change, and if you've ever been a client, I've been a client, or patient, however you call it, people get afraid of change. They may hold on to the old ways that give false security, and then they can turn on the counselor and on counseling. This is the very dynamic that led to the crucifixion of Jesus. It is very striking in our story that both leaders in the story, Pilate and Herod, want to let Jesus go free. Reflect on that. They call him innocent. Who does not? The people. We. The people turned against Jesus in the spirit of, better the devil you know than the devil you don't. Even saying that he was in cahoots with Beelzebul, Luke 11. His absolutely loving, compassionate God was feared like a plague because he melted away all the false securities. Key is now that Jesus did not give into the frozen fear and into the projections that are based on this fear and that were expressed in the accusations we heard about that led to his death. I quote from Luke 23, verse 2. "We found this man inciting our nation forbidding us to pay taxes to Caesar and saying that he himself is the Messiah, a king. A blatant lie, but they didn't know it's a projection. Jesus did not want to rule, nor did he want to compete with Caesar. Jesus simply replied like a therapist, non-defensively, saying, "You say so." He did not fight fear with fear. Most importantly, his attitude became a symbol in history for God's unconditionally compassionate attitude. That God is like Jesus was. We can understand this too from the process of therapy. If the therapist does not defend or retaliate against the aliveness of the client, including the pent-up aggressions, but helps the client understand the reasons for it, then these passions can be transformed, and Augustine would be very surprised, from something deadly into something life-giving, from tearing down dignity to building up healthy self-esteem and appreciation of others. Jesus gave himself like a therapist gives themselves to the destructive and regenerative process of healing and liberation. In the cross, we symbolize that the empathic, compassionate God can take all of our aggression so that we no longer need to act it out on ourselves. These would be more the depressive type clients, or on others. These would be the more narcissistic type clients, if you want sort of a personality style analysis here. Then resurrection happens. Then we can feel centered and be compassionate, because no matter what strategies of fear and death we face to kill us or silence us, the warm light of our life in the here and now is eternal and indestructible, because it comes from this empathic, compassionate, loving God. Let us live with this passion. Amen.